Welcome to another episode of Knifemaking Downunder podcast. Today we'll be talking about the social media. I have here Kev Slattery of Kev's Forge and Corin Urquhart from Gameco. Gentlemen, how's your week?
Yeah, really good. Been enjoying my week. I'm still not really doing a lot in the workshop, but I'm, slowly getting back there. I had, as we know from our last episode, I had the company of the Sausage Man, Jamie, and we went out and looked at some local junk stores to see if there was any sort of rusty gold out there. Didn't pick anything up of any importance or value, but it was good.
All right. How about you, Corin?
Yeah, Mert. I've had a pretty busy week, mate. I went down to Melbourne. I picked up a new machine, and
again.
Yeah, well, I am what I am, and I've also been working on some projects in my shed, including making one in particular, chuck key for one of my lathe chucks. Basically, it's a small lathe chuck that I use on a rotating dividing head.
All right, sounds cool. All right, I was doing a big batch of stainless heat treatment this week. I probably did like 12 blades in total, 8 of them being stainless Sandvik steel and 4 of them were Damascus steel. So I did a big batch of stainless heat treatment. That's what I did pretty much all week. Tempering them, making sure they're all straight and making sure they're marked correctly so I know which steel is what. And now I'll be grinding all day.
When I think of Mert Tanzu knives, I don't often think of stainless steels, Mert. Is that something that you're doing more and more of now?
Look, I have another brand, Hunter Valley Blades. I don't know if I talked to you about in the podcast before. So most of my custom orders are all carbon steel, but there are also a lot of people who don't want to deal with the carbon steel and they want just basic simple stainless steels, custom orders and stainless steel as well. So what I try to do with the stainless steel is to be able to get a better life out of the liquid nitrogen, I like to do them in batches. Because every time you fill a liquid nitrogen, they have an evaporation rate. They don't stay in the dewar for long. So I get it in. I try to get all of my stainless heat treated at once. And so I get the best out of my liquid nitrogen.
Oh, yeah, good idea. That makes sense. Batch heat treating stainless is a really good idea, particularly if you are cryoing.
Yeah, to be able to get most out of these modern stainless steels, you have to use cryo. I mean, there are some stainless steels like 440. You don't have to do cryo, but if you're working with the Damascus steel or if you're working with the high alloy content stainless steel, cryo is the way to go. Then you can get the most out of them, I think.
So I brought up during the week, guys, that we should have a discussion about beginner tips. How do you guys feel about bringing a regular segment to our podcast where we give some beginner tips? What is it that when we were beginners, and I still classify myself in that category after 17 years since I made my first knife. I do still consider myself in that category due to the quantity of knives that I make. What are our tips for people that are getting into knife making? Because this podcast is being, obviously promoted to people who maybe they don't know anything about Australian knife making. They don't know who we are and what we do. And I just think it'd be a good idea for us to give them what we feel would be a good thing. Kev?
Yeah. My first tip, and one of the things I see with the new makers when they're starting to come through, or a lot of new makers, I shouldn't say the new makers, is take your time. Don't be in a rush to get a knife out to say that you've done a knife. Look at the aspects of that knife in terms of the design, and then execute all the stages in it to the best of your ability. Quite often we'll see guys posting up a knife. It's finished. It might be a full tang Hunter, for example. It's finished. They're posting it up saying, look what I've made. And, there's deep scratches in it. It seems as though it's a mix between a hand sanded and a machine finished blade. I think what they're doing is they want to get stuff out there to get the feedback from people, but they're just going that one step too fast. And, most of the time when you're starting out, take that extra 10 or 15 minutes and try and get the best finish that you can and do the best that you can with it. Quantity will come and quality along with it once you've done a lot of the, a number of knives to begin with, but you end up with each stage you're learning that valuable part about, hand sanding the right way or how to not get glue on your blade so that you scrape it off with, something metallic and end up with scratches back on your blade once you've done that. So my advice to people, first up with beginner knife makers, don't get disillusioned by people like us that, or except for you, Corin, people like us that knock out knives pretty quickly. Take your time and get it done right. Aim for, be more like Corin and aim for 1 or 2 knives a year to begin with, and get them done right.
Mert?
I think that what you're saying comes from care. Like as a man, most of men, we don't read manuals. Okay, we don't like reading instructions. Most of us get the information from YouTube or without any previous experience. We have a go at it. And as you said, we're excited. We got something done and we want to show it. I think if you were to take your time, as you said, that helps. But and again, if you have somebody teaching you, so you look at the knives people made, they're doing by themselves, and also look at the same sort of knives that people do after they've done a course or they are shown by a guy who teaches them what materials to buy or how to grind, how to finish. There is such a big difference. In many cases, you see people are getting into knife making, they're making first 10 knives, then realize, as you said, most of those knives are full of mistakes and beginner mistakes, and then they decide to see a knife maker, then they decide to do a course. And the work they do after that, it's a night and day. I think if somebody's beginning, I will say, yes, there are good YouTube videos out there, but I will say best thing a new maker can do is find a well-known established knife maker near them and go visit their shop. If they do courses, great, do a course with them. This will not only help you make better knives, also it will make your knife making a lot easier. For example, let's say you don't know much about knife making and you start reading stuff on internet. You buy tools, you buy a grinder, you buy a little belt sander from your local hardware store because that's what you bought and nobody told you otherwise. Or you start buying steel that's not the right steel, or you buying abrasives from your local hardware store. If you had done if you visited a knife maker's shop, if the knife maker told you what to buy, what not to use, you would have avoided all of those purchases. Because the second you get into knife making, you're going to realize the small sander you bought off your hardware store is not going to cut it. The sandpaper you bought from your hardware store, it's way too expensive. It doesn't cut. I will say if somebody's getting a knife making, see if there's a well-established knife maker near them.
Yep, good point. Good tip.
Excellent points. So, from my perspective, which you've taken two of mine, the next one that I'm thinking of anyway is just make every knife better than the last. You shouldn't need somebody to point out to you that you've left big scratches somewhere or that your plunge lines don't meet up. But it's okay to move on. Like you can finish that knife. There's sometimes where you just have to say enough is enough and move on, but make the next knife better. That's the key, is to say, I'm not making that mistake again and try and do it a better job. So make every knife better than the last is my beginner tip for today.
All right.
Yep. And you'll probably, you'll find that you'll have a really steep learning curve in terms of, or output to that time that you spend in there. You're going to improve really fast, like that rocket taking off, and then you're going to plateau. And that plateauing stage is where a lot of the guys come unstuck as well. That's when the really small things come into play. Like there's always something to improve as you're going through, and it's when you've done all these massive steps and massive leaps in fixing up your knives, and you get to a stage where you're like, oh, there's nothing else I can do better, and that's when you've really got to, either take a good long look at it, or better yet, find someone that you trust to give you a little bit of feedback, critical feedback on it, and take it with a grain of salt. And if someone tells you, your sanding isn't really up to scratch yet, it's kind of wavy, shows you how to fix it up, take that on board and take that next step.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you're never too experienced to do a course and a masterclass and go and learn from somebody that's better than you. That never ends. So if it does for you, then perhaps it's time to take up a different hobby.
Well, one of the examples of that just on social media recently, Schwarzer going over to spend time with Henning Wilkinson in South Africa, and Steve's a master, and yet he was also saying that he's picking up stuff off Henning. So you're exactly right. It's not like you get to a level, of Master Smith, if that's what you're trying to get to, and then that's it. You can still visit other people and learn their techniques.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing for beginners, like that Australian Blacksmiths, Bladesmiths and Knife Makers Network, we have on there a roll call, and you'll find like there's so many people from all around Australia on there that you often find there's somebody in the same suburb making knives. That happens quite regularly.
Nowadays, we're really lucky with the social media and all those media platforms available. Now you can Google the video of Nick Wheeler and you can find how he finishes his knives or how to grind them. Maybe like 10, 15 years ago, this was almost impossible to find. You had to go visit a knife maker. But now you can get an idea of how to approach things with the availability of those videos on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Back then it was internet forums. They were the big way to, meet people and learn and share work in progresses, that WIP threads, which was the big thing on forums back in the day. I guess now we don't really, the age of the forum is, I guess, dead. I hate to say it, but it kind of is, with the more immediate now social medias like Facebook and Instagram, where you can throw up a picture in seconds with a few comments and it's seen by millions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when Mert obviously was doing our intro today to our podcast, one of the things we're going to look at doing is having a bit of a chat, focusing a little bit on that social media side of things. A couple of good points there, but one of the ones which I always sort of look at and, get caught up in a little bit is the time involved, that investment into social media. What do you guys do, or how hard at the moment?
Corn?
Well, for me, my investiture in social media is fairly intense. We have to monitor various groups and channels. So I'm an administrator on some of the biggest groups on Facebook in the blacksmithing world. So Blacksmithing for Beginners, Australian Blacksmiths, Bladesmiths and Knife Makers Network, and a whole bunch of other ones. All of those groups, you're kind of responsible for one person. You're not individually responsible because there is a team of administrators, but one person can get on there and just ruin the place for everybody. They can just carry on like a dick and absolutely ruin it for anybody. And that can happen any time of the day or night. So you have to be ready to jump in and say, look, we don't need you as part of our community, and move those people along. And that can be quite intense. The whole investiture from the business aspect, the pages. So I'm involved with the Knife Art Association, and up until recently I ran Australian Blades Symposium, Sydney Knife Show, Australian Knife Makers Guild, not through the Knife Art Association, but I ran their pages as well. And in the end, I just found I had far too much on my plate. So I've started divesting that and letting other people, or help, accepting other people's of help to run those various pages. But I find that it sends me into an obsessed, crazed depression. I really don't like the intensity of social media. I don't like the immediacy, and I don't like the fact that it's live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there's no switching it off. It's there happening in the background. So something can happen. Someone can be just out mouthing off, slagging you off, or complaining, or doing anything. I mean, anyone can do anything on social media, and there's nothing you can do or say. You don't get a right of reply. They don't write to you. I mean, they don't have the balls. They're hiding behind a screen. They don't have the balls to front you and say, look, I've got a problem. And that's why in my own personal life, I try not to do that on social media. If I've got a problem with someone, I'll pick up the phone and ring them and say, hey, buddy, I've got a problem. I don't understand what drives people to being a keyboard hero, if you like. With the, I was just talking to one of my suppliers today over in the States, and he was having the same problem. He had a customer contact him and complain that he'd been messaging him for 2 days and he hadn't responded. And it's a Sunday in America. It's Monday in Australia where the guy was messaging from. Sunday in America. This guy said, this is why I can't stand it. I don't want any part of it anymore. And for me, I would love a Facebook that's on for an hour a day and you could just have to look at it for an hour a day and then switch it off. And you can go back to your life comfortably and happy for the rest of the 23 hours. Unfortunately, that's not the way it is. So I don't check messages on a weekend anymore. I don't look at them. I try not to look at Facebook at all. And I try not to look at Instagram. Every so often something happens and someone will send me a message and say, hey, Corrin, you need to look. And I appreciate the people that send me those messages. But generally, I don't even look. And I'll worry about it on Monday because there's not much you can do on a weekend anyway. It's just going to ruin your day. Someone's got a problem or they need some help with something. There's so many people on those groups that can do it.
Yeah, that you see that a lot, which is, probably one of the downsides to social media. Mert, you and I, we run our businesses. We're full-time knife makers, and social media for us, again, is also a business platform. But one of the things I notice in the time that I spend on there, which is probably too much time, is you tend to post a lot more content than me, for example. How do you find that interrupting your day, for example?
Yeah, it's taken a bit of time, to be honest. So, for example, last year, I noticed at one point, I was member of 3 forums, posting quite frequently. And I was posting on Instagram, I was posting on Facebook, and then I realized that I'm spending so much time on social media and to keep up with it. Somebody is responding to you, you have to be active. You cannot just drop and run. I think I was trying to be active, but it came to a point I just limited my social media interaction with only few platforms. Now I only post on Instagram for business, and my Facebook is related to it. So anything I post, it goes automatically to my Facebook, and I have this page. I have this app that lets me know what's happening in my pages. Look, if I get something notification either from my Instagram or Facebook, it lets me know there's some kind of interaction I have to respond. Yes, as you said, keeping up takes a lot of time. And I also noticed you cannot just be constantly posting about what you're making. This is up for sale. People also want to know you a little bit too. That's why I'm trying to be also giving some sort of content, letting people know this is my day off. This is what I'm doing with my family. This is what I'm cooking. This is also sometimes I post the failures I have because people, especially young makers, they look at the social media, they look at the works of the more experienced makers, and they think oh my God, this guy makes it and he makes things look easy. It's not that. We mess up a lot of times. We have mishaps. I have broken blades. I just showed a friend of mine the handle that I made yesterday. It's going straight in the trash. I didn't notice my disc grinder tool rest wasn't 90-degree on angle. It was slightly offset, slight enough to offset that the $80 piece of block of beautiful Tasmanian blackwood, it looks like it's made by Salvador Dali. It looks like surreal. It looks like the angle on the left and right, they're not same. I put on the blade, it looks like there are angles all over the place. I didn't notice it till it's too late. So that's why I like to also post my mistakes as well. So people think it's not always glory in the knife making. There's also problems and mishaps and a lot of screaming and a lot of sad moments. Or you hurt yourself, you cut yourself. What you make goes in the bin. This is reality. But as you said, yes, it takes a lot of my time. Corn?
Yeah, I've had a similar experience with a piece of timber going that way it was just a rookie mistake, and I didn't even notice it until the knife was finished, until I took the knife to a show, and Peter Del Rasso picked it up and said, I love everything about it, it's perfect, but I just couldn't live with this, it looks shit. And I looked at it again and I'm like, oh my God, no one else has ever seen it, but it's there, and when you know it's there, it's just so disappointing. Anyway, no, with the social media, I'm the time wasting to what would you call it? I guess effort to reward. The amount of effort you put into the reward you get is, it's hard. It's hard. You gotta make the call sometimes. Like, I've got to get back to work. I can't just sit here and there's only so much inspiration I can get,
Yeah, I'm the same. Like I found, my workshop, I had notifications set up on my phone. You're trying to get a task done to the best of your ability, and meanwhile you've got your phone buzzing and beeping and carrying on, and it's a distraction enough. And the way social media is set up in terms of that, the psychology behind it, it's set up to condition you, like the old Pavlov's dogs. Ring the bell, there's food. The notification bell rings, there's food for your brain, which is that, someone liked my post, awesome. And it's all designed on that, bumping up the brain to kick out the good sort of feelings when you get that stuff. And you kind of got to condition yourself and almost force yourself to switch off. So I don't have, when I'm in my workshop, I don't have my phone volume up. I just went through again the other day on my Facebook in particular, because it seems every time Facebook updates, my notification settings where I turn everything off seem to revert back to everything on. And I just get flooded with my phone buzzing and beeping. So I've gone through, and this is, again, particularly in my work hours, and I'm trying to establish, a working day rather than being in the shed all the time. I turn it off because I don't want that distraction. And if I have a break, or if I need that break from what I'm doing, that's when I'll get the phone out, see that there's, 15 notifications for whatever platforms, and I'll have a quick scan and see if something's worthwhile. Like you were saying, Corin, the hardest thing about it is 24/7. I've been sitting at home, with the noise in the background, TV shows on, just winding down at 11 o'clock at night. And then I end up with customers, local customers even from Australia, sending you messages about how much to make a knife, and you're like, man, it's 11 o'clock at night. But as a businessman, you got to answer that. So you can't, it's very hard to switch off. I set business hours up on my Facebook page from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. 7 days a week. And that's what I'm really prepared to invest in. On the weekends, I'll still, answer questions and stuff, but I'd prefer, like you've got to switch off. You've got to get that time away from it, time with your family.
Yeah, well, the problem is most of my client base is in the US. If I put myself in Australian business hours, that means like it's pretty much telling my clients over US not to contact me, because we are 17 hours ahead of them US. That's the struggle with it.
Yeah, with the US, I find they're the guys I don't really, I'll talk to anyone, it doesn't matter, but I find that late at night when I'm up is when I do my contact with the US guys. It's early morning for them, late at night for us, and then go to bed and get your 6 or 7 hours sleep, wake up in the morning, it's later in the evening for them and early morning for us. So I'll spend the last half an hour of my night and the first half an hour of my morning flicking through and doing the content especially for the US guys.
And that's a great thing. I mean, you guys run your own businesses. It's a different kettle of fish to us. I've got a number of staff here. We all monitor the Facebook, but it is a drain on your time because you're not being productive. And that, I mean, this is probably a discussion for a future episode, but how much of your time as a knife maker, as a full-time knife maker, is actually spent making knives? How much of your time is spent marketing? How much of your time is spent packing your post to ship overseas? How much of your time is used doing other things within your own business, not in actually making knives?
Well, I think when you first start, most of your time goes into making it because you don't have the experience. Things takes longer. But now, since becoming more experienced, I find myself spending most of time actually with doing the admin side of things, doing the correspondence, emails, quotes, and then also, as you say, packing. Another thing that people don't notice it when you become full-time is when you become full-time, you spend so much time in your shop, things start to break. Things require maintenance. Okay, your grinders, the bearings, the nuts and bolts, and cleaning. You need replacement saw for the blades, relining the forge, cleaning doing all of that stuff takes time. I will say maybe half of my time goes into admin side or other things versus like being on the grinder or actually forging and grinding and heat treating blades.
I spend a lot of time on that, housekeeping of the shop, housekeeping of the business. And then that comes into play as a little bit, the funny side to that, which I've tried to explain a few times to people, is when I eventually do get onto the social media and post up a bunch of stuff that I've been working on, I do have a high output of work, but people always get on there and go, holy shit, man, you're a machine. Look at this stuff. But it's like, yeah, well, technically I've been working on it for 3 weeks. I just haven't posted any social media up. So when I post up, sometimes I'll do a batch of, heat treating, like say, and then post heat treat grinding, and I'll just be in the zone and I'll get 10 knives done in a crazy small amount of time, again, through experience. And then I'll post that up and people just seem like that level of output is not happening all the time. I can guarantee you it's not there. It's almost a trick of social media, and it's not done on purpose. But productivity is actually slower than it appears when I do that sort of stuff. But like you said, mate, you want to try and catch things before they break. As you know, Mert, with your VFD situation leading into the Blade Show, I think it was, things break, and critical things always break when you need them most. And so you've got to try and be on top of that. And like I said, the other thing which you've got to look at, and we know a bit more because we're friends and see our own stuff that we send each other, but you've got to have time out and you've got to spend it with your family or you're screwed. So there's the work-life balance, which is a reality. I don't mind being in my workshop at 10 o'clock at night, provided my wife, doesn't really care if I'm up there. But if we've got stuff on, then, sometimes she comes home 5:30, 6 o'clock, she'll get home from work. I turn the lights off, I walk out of the workshop. That's my day done. So you've got to do that balance.
Yeah, look, time spent with your family isn't... it's not quality time with your family when you're sitting there looking at Facebook or Instagram either. I mean, you have to be, if you're spending time with your family, you've got to be present with your family. So that's,
exactly.
That's really critical, I think.
Yeah.
Well, one thing with the social media and availability, one of the things was, let's say you got in a custom order and all of a sudden somebody sees like, oh, they see what you're doing and they start to question. This happened to me once. Once I took a custom order from a guy and I told him, look, man, this will take a year. At that point, my hammer wasn't installed yet. I said, this was a semi knife with the Damascus and all that. It was a fairly hard to make knife. I told him my hammer is coming in 8 months. After the hammer is installed, it will take me another 4 or 5 months to get to my backlog and I'll be there. And my hammer came in, but this guy, he was following me on social media as well. And he keeps sending messages like, is it there yet? I'm like, no, man, I haven't put the hammer yet. It will be 4 or 5 months after the hammer is installed. So my hammer is installed and I was getting messages. I'm posting messages on Instagram with me being in the family. Oh, I saw the hammer is installed. Aren't you working today? No, I'm with my family. Then this kept going on and on, okay? Hey, look, I'm forging something. I'm posting something about I'm forging. I thought you were forging my blade. No, bro. Like I'm just doing monosteel stuff like this. I'm not doing a batch of Damascus. It came to a point, I looked at the emails. After 200 emails and correspondence with this guy, I told him, this is your money. All the money deposit you send, take it back. I don't want to fucking make knife for you. Because you become so available, people see you so much. Like I was getting, oh, you're not working. Where's my knife? Oh, you're hand sanding. Is that my knife? No, it's not. Guess what? It's never going to be your fucking knife. And yeah.
One of the things, one of the, like, that's a funny thing, but I'll go as far as assuming that you guys follow Rob Herbert on his page, RNN Blades.
Sure.
He's an awesome guy, and the amount of times you see poor old Rob putting up a fucking video explaining to people that he doesn't have a website, he's got a limited number of custom orders, and this is how you get a knife. And then it's the same thing. You'll see a knife posted up the next day, and someone will be like, "Oh, can I buy that? How do I buy your knife?" And it's like, I find that sometimes with people, they don't look at the past content of social media enough. It's always that like present and anticipating the future. So he's just poor bloke spends like 10 minutes busting a nut, telling people, I've got 50, 100 fucking knives to get through. So you got to wait. And then they're still hitting him up every time. "Oh, can I have that? Can I have that?" Or he's got these really cool.
When they send price, you post something, people just post underneath price.
Yeah. He's making these really cool prototype frame lock knives at the moment. And he's put up there that, they're prototypes, and what he does with his prototypes is he finishes them, he gives them to his hunting mates, and 2 months' time they'll come back and tell him whether they're good, bad, ugly, and then he'll go into, for want of another term, he'll go into production of them. But people still hit him up. "Oh, can I have that one? Can I have that one?" You're like, fuck. So I don't get it as bad because like I said, I probably don't push that promotion of it. And I with custom stuff, I'm kind of selective these days. My primary business when I'm not broken is teaching, and then I like doing the custom ones in a smaller volume because then that's my break from teaching, and it gives me that sort of avenue to go out there. So probably the segue into that is from picturing that from other people's points of view is the old social media horror stories, and I can see I just want to go
back a point, right? You said people don't look back through past content. People don't even read the fucking words in the current content, Kev. All right? I've been selling stuff on Facebook and on Instagram and on forums now since 2012. And I got to tell you, I find it so fucking frustrating when I'm selling a piece of equipment that's valued at $2,500. I put up a post that's got a couple of hundred words in it explaining all of the information that's required, and people ask questions that are answered if they just read the top post. I just want to go back to them and say, if you're too fucking stupid to read what I've written, you're too fucking stupid to own this product. Right? They're not going to be your customer. You know that down the track, they're the ones that are going to have problems because they never read the fucking instructions. If you can't read it, if you can't read the information, don't comment, don't buy it.
Yeah, I saw that. I actually like reading comments under some of the knife makers that I follow on Instagram in particular. I like reading some of the comments. And there was someone that posted up a picture of a beautiful knife, and they had RWL 34 stainless steel blade, blah, blah, blah. And then the third comment down was, what type of stainless steel is this? and it's a classic example of what you've just said. You're like, unless he fucking edited this, holy crap, really? So I don't really like, for me in particular with the horror stories, I don't have too many like what I'd actually categorize into the horror stories. I do get the pain in the ass posts from, I'd probably put onto the report, 100 potential Russian wives a week or two, like I get a lot of requests through Instagram. Hi, sweetie, stealing from that other podcast group. But,
new trend is take my pants off. Now I'm getting them like take my pants off. They're giving up on the high cutie. The new ones I'm getting start with the take my pants off. I'm like, ooh, escalated quickly.
Well, I'll stop sending those to you, mate.
I'm talking about the Russian bots as well.
Okay, shit, sorry. We might have to edit that out then. So, like, what are your horror stories, though, Mert? I mean, that's pretty bad when someone's like 200 emails over a knife. That sucks. Like, no way.
Yeah, look, you get all kinds. Like, sometimes you get people spamming your page. I post the knife. A little beauty salon or hair salon in Korea is commenting on my page on the post. beautiful knife. Check our content. I'm looking. It's a wax salon or whatever it is in Korea. Like, yeah, that sounds like a perfect marketing plan. I love your page so much. I just want to quit whatever I'm doing, get my fucking eyebrows done in your salon. Let me just hop on a plane to go on the Seoul to get my fucking eyebrows done. Or you get like random.
Can you forward their details to me, Mert?
Man, you need more than an eyebrow. Free shit requests from DMs. Hey, I'm an influencer. I can promote your knife. I'm like, oh, great. You know, the funniest I had was a few months ago. I had somebody asking, like, I'm going through a DM saying, making sure I didn't miss anybody's email or any message. I see a little some young musician, Italian musician. I checked the message, like, what are they saying? And I cannot help myself read the message in an Italian accent. And this guy's saying, I'm a new singer and let's make a barter. Like, I said, I wanted to message back and I did. I'm like, what are you suggesting? And this guy's saying, I'll make you a song, you make me a knife. I'm thinking, what kind of fucking stupid deal shit must be? Like, you make me a song? Like, how the song is mine? How do I make it mine? I'm like, no, man. It ain't going through.
I always wanted a song. I'll do that. You just put him in my direction. I'm all over that.
But when we share a hotel room, I always sing you to sleep, and you've never offered to give me a fucking knife.
You're gonna get a knife in your back one day.
Oh, sure I will. All right, let's keep going down. I've got a little list here of shit that we spoke about. What social media platforms do you guys use or find the best to use? I mean, there's probably more social media platforms out there that I even know of. Me personally, it's Facebook and it's Instagram. I don't do Twitter. I don't do, other stuff that's out there. And I find I get enough business return from those two platforms. My key one is Instagram. And I find Instagram is more social than Facebook. I could put the same content on Facebook and get 1/10 of the posts and 1/10 of the views than I would on Instagram. And, so I look at that. For me, Facebook, my Kev's Forge page and my Kevin Slattery Custom Cutlery page, and at Kev's Forge on Instagram, and that's it.
Yeah, well, the big problem with Facebook is that their algorithms don't want to support weapon makers like us. And so that's
weapon makers.
Yeah, well, that's the way it is. That's the way they see us. I sell stuff to make knives. There's not one knife on my page. There's nothing on my page that's any more a weapon than pardon me, half a brick. All right. So it just strikes me as strange that I have a consistent ban on me on promoting on Facebook because I quote sell weapons. And
what's the strangest weapon that you've sold?
Yes, Kev, the strangest one was the Corby bolts. So for those that make knives, you'll be familiar with Corby bolts. For those of you that are new to knife making, you may not know, a Corby bolt is a method of securing a handle to a piece of steel, to your tang. And it's basically a screw that when you grind it off looks like a pin. So without getting too technical. Yeah. So we were releasing a brand new range of Corby bolts, and I wanted to do a paid promotion to people that like my page. Why wouldn't I? We've got 7,000 people there, and I want those 7,000 people to know that we have Corby bolts back in stock, and we've got all the different types. And so I put in a paid promotion, $50. Tell everybody that likes our page. Facebook comes back and says, no, you can't do that because it's they're weapons, basically. You're promoting the sale of weapons. And so the result of that was I put the screenshots. If you look back through our page, you'll probably be able to find it. We put screenshots up of Facebook's communication accusing us of selling weapons. And we thought it was totally ridiculous, encouraged our people to like and share and tell us how ridiculous they thought it was, and the people who like our page. And we had 7,000 likes and hundreds of shares, and everybody found it hilarious. We got more exposure from doing that than we did out of Facebook letting the ad through. So in the end, they let it through because I did an appeal. And this time I've always argued, we don't sell knives. I've got all this screenshotted where we've argued and argued and they just don't listen. You responded to with a form letter from a bot. This time I just put a link to me ridiculing Facebook. And that's all I put in the appeal. They've obviously looked at it. I never got a response, but my ad went through after about 2 weeks. My ad went through. So I found that, as far as I was concerned, that was a success story for me.
Well, I think, though, the trouble with the social media is we're kind of getting too dependent on, for example, Instagram or Facebook. We're becoming too more dependent on it. And when they strike against us with those algorithms, or when some of those hashtags become too dangerous in their eyes, it makes most of the knife makers invisible. So what I notice is I'm going through my post and there's a little insight button on Instagram, tells me how my posts are doing, how much new engagement I'm getting, but I'm looking at it. My posts are being liked and seen only by the 1 percentile, like 1% of the people who are already following me. So I'm not getting any new people. I'm thinking like, what's the problem here? Then I noticed anytime you link stuff, like for example, if you want to use hashtag sword or hashtag weapon or something, automatically your posts or your account is going to become almost invisible to the new people who are not following any of that kind of content. So
that's a tough.
You make knives. I make knives. I make kitchen knives. Are you like, oh, chef's knife? And the second the word knife is in there, Instagram thinks I'm a weapons dealer and my post is not being active. But last few weeks, I experimented with the new hashtags, or I wasn't even using them much. Like you get to have 30 of them, and I only post like photography, or I had no knife included in my hashtags, and I was getting a lot more interaction with the new people. I had like 40, 50 people clicking on my website. Although if I say like it's a chef's knife, although it's a chef's knife, if you use those dangerous weapon words like chef knife, all of a sudden...
Statistically though, Mert, you're more likely to be stabbed with a kitchen knife. You know this.
Yes, that's true. But I don't think any of my knives are used in violence other than potatoes or produce,
I would hope not.
I hope not.
But that's the thing. No, I mean, there's people out there in America, and I've said this before, it's just a cultural difference. When you're at Blade Show, you guys have both been to Blade Show, and you walk down through the tables, you see fighting knife, zombie killer, fighting knife, swords, tactical folders, tactical knife, kitchen knife. And then, you know what I mean? Like over here, when you go to a knife show, it's like hunting knife, bushcrafter, hunting knife, kitchen knife. It's like a different demographic in a show here that we sell. We seem to have a different culture behind knives.
It is definitely different. I think, as we discussed before, Blade is all about fighting knives and movies and things like that. But I think here in Australia, we sell more of the stuff that people are going to use. We don't have the same prepper culture. We don't have the same zombie apocalyptical slayer culture here, Speaking of zombie slayer...
Well, yeah.
For those who don't know,
we're no longer allowed to have zombie knives in New South Wales because we've outlawed zombies. So, legislation change for those that are not aware. If you put the word zombie killer on your knife and you have a serrated section and a normal section of blade, your knife is now illegal in the state of New South Wales. There you go. Oh, it doesn't even have to say zombie; just has to imply violence. But don't get me on my rant.
That's a very full episode, that one.
Yeah.
Just the rant is a full episode. How do you guys go? Because we've got two sort of two ways here. The business side for Corin being the sale of things to make knives, and us being the people that are selling the knives made. How do you go with people asking for free shit?
Me? I get asked.
Do you get asked?
Oh, fuck yeah. I get asked for free shit all the time. We had a guy come up to us, write to us just a few weeks ago and said, I've got a new YouTube channel. It's going to be absolutely huge. And I just need you to give me some stuff so that I can do some videos on it. I went and checked him out with his 200 views on his last video and about 28 subscribers. And I'm sorry, mate. I wish you all the best, but, I'll sell you something. At the end of the day, you can't, in a business, you can't give stuff away on the promise of something big. Okay, I learned that a very long time ago. The people that come up to you and talk big but aren't doing big, just be wary. Be very wary. The people that have credence, like those people that have a huge following, they're not normally going to ask for free shit. But you're going to want to give them free shit because you want your product to be on their thing, so they'll share out and promote you. And sometimes, that just comes.
And they'll probably offer to pay for it anyway.
Those people generally will because they're professional. They know what they want to do, and they know that it benefits you. So they're going to be more happy if they get it for the better price. But at the end of the day, yeah, we get asked for free shit all the time, and you just can't do it. And I know you guys would have the same experience, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, in terms of the free shit, because my content is all about cooking, and I get the random chefs asking for free knives and things like that. Some people who claim themselves influencers. Hey, I have 600 followers. I'm an influencer. I'm like, good job, man. Good on influencing. If they're that big, they should have the power to purchase it. And secondly, let's say there's a big page. Okay, think about some kind of meme page that has maybe thousands following. Does that going to do any good to my business? Is there any correlation with that? Do I want to be associated with the meme page? Yeah, I see has this many thousand followers. Is that going to do any good to my page?
Yeah, that's such a great point. Just having people that like your page and people that follow, if they're not people that are interested in your product, is that really doing anything for you, or is it just numbers on a screen that make you feel better about yourself?
Yeah, I get asked for free shit every now and then. I've got enough work on because I'm a sole operator, so I don't want to give stuff away because it's one customer is going to miss out, and I don't think people understand that. So I'm usually polite. If it's someone that's really pushy, I more or less tell them to fuck off, and I'll block them and move on. Yeah, so I guess social media has its positives and negatives, and we're kind of all slaves to it. I don't think it's going to disappear in a hurry unless we get a wipe out of the world's infrastructure some way, solar flare or something, and we've just got to, I guess, adapt with it and live with it.
Yeah, but having said that, I didn't think forums were going to go anywhere 5 years ago. I thought forums were in for the long haul.
I think the problem with the forums were there were little cliques as well, because you didn't have to be there as a person. You could be the cool guy in the big shed. You could be talking down to people, or you could be mean. You could react and interact with people a lot different than you will if you see them in the real life.
Yeah, people who stand behind that fake name. If you don't use your real name, suddenly you feel like you can behave like you've always wanted to, like the hero you've always wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that
social
happens.
Warriors.
Yeah, you get it on Facebook too. The ones that always carry on like dicks are the ones that don't put their real name on their Facebook account. You tell it straight away. Yeah,
I get plenty of friend requests from these weird named people, and I go and have a quick look at their profile, and they might have 50 friends that I have, but I don't know who the hell they are, and they don't have any photos of who they are, and you're like, sorry, man, I'm not putting someone up with some joker's name, and it's especially on my personal page. Like, forget that.
Yeah, with the Facebook and friend requests, it's funny. Like if I interact with somebody on social media, or if I met them, if I talk to them, if they add me, like I know who these people are. It's fine.
Yeah.
In one of the last knife shows, I'm standing across the room with another knife maker. I know who he is. We never talked. Okay, never said a hi, never said a single word. And I had my phone beeped, and as a Pavlov's dog, I'm like, oh, something, something. Let me look what it is. And that guy across the room was sending friend requests. I'm like, bro, you're across. Like, we never talked before. You never said a single word, and you're adding as a friend. Like, no, I don't do that. Like, if you're talking to me, if we had interacted on social media somehow, yeah, I'm fine with that. But you get requests for like some random Damascus maker from, like, I don't know you, dude. I don't know who you are. This is my personal life.
Yeah. It's a funny old thing. Social media, the joy of it. All right. So I've been hanging out for the whole podcast. Let's go to shed time, and I can talk about my new wall down drill.
Tell us all about your drill, Kev.
Well, I put out a call on. Actually, social media is good for, especially Facebook when you're trying to chase something down. So I put out a call a little while ago. I wanted a benchtop drill. I wanted it to be reasonably accurate because I want to make folding knives. And there's so many small drills that aren't worth the $200 or $300 that people are asking for them. And Matt McVicker sent me a text message just saying, hey, you're still looking for a drill? And he'd found a nice wall down drill, and he wanted the accessories that went with the drill, and I wanted the drill. So, we struck a deal with the price. And Jamie Bishop was down to deliver that to me. But I've got this really cool old school wall down drill. The guy that sold it to Matt was in his 70s, and worked out at some pretty cool places using this drill. And I got it. And I'll tell you what, man, if you can track down that old school Australian made drills, those things are absolutely bomb proof. This thing will not move. There's no flex in the table. It's just such solid construction. And I think I'm in love.
Yeah. I've had a wall-on drill now for probably 12 months now, or maybe a little bit more. And absolutely beautiful piece of equipment. There's a few little things you might want to do to it. Did you get a 3-phase or a 240-volt model?
Is that the one that you put the VFD on?
Yes, correct. So put the VFD on it, and then I'm now able to slow it right down, drill through steel at sort of, less than 1 RPM. 1 RPS, I guess, revolution per second. Yeah, I can get it right down slow, and it's just a really lovely thing to use. I can use it for thread tapping as well because it's so slow. I've got a little handheld control for the VFD that sits in the palm of your hand, and it's pretty nice. How's the run out on yours? Have you put a bit of... Yep.
I haven't actually. I've only turned it on to make sure it worked. I haven't drilled a hole in anything yet. I've obviously got to do a bit of. I've got to do a bit of checking into it to make sure it runs smooth. But and funnily enough, I think I've got to drive down to Victoria on Saturday to pick up the next one that I just bought.
You bought another one already?
Facebook Marketplace. Well, I want to be a collector of something.
Matt's already collecting enough of those for both of us, isn't he?
I want to join the club like you guys, where you have lots of shit in your shed and you can't get around.
No, that's Corin. That's Corin with hoarding. I've seen in previous pictures of his shed that he had to move stuff out to be able to walk in.
Yeah, well, that's what's true. I was there.
Yeah.
Matt McVicker has a collection of wall downs. I'm a bit amused that you've bought another one, Kev.
Well, the truth behind it is the one that I'm buying or picking up next Saturday is the same model drill, but it just looks cleaner. It's nicer. It's been so well maintained and it was at a good price. So I'll pick that one up. And then I may end up having to put this other one on the market for the same price that I got it, So I'm happy to do that because I do have a limited amount of free space in my workshop. I can't fit 2 of these wall down drills in there and still feel, like it's not claustrophobic in there.
Well, while you're down in Melbourne, do you mind dropping in at my office and picking up my new tool and cutter grinder I just bought?
Oh, this is where I'm fortunate that I don't currently have a tow bar on my car. So the wall down's going in the back, and that's all that's going in there.
What I did with my wall down, and it's not so much the wall down thing, but the Jacobs chuck, is that mine had plenty of run out, and when I measured the run out, it wasn't coming from the taper on the wall down. It was coming from the Jacobs chuck. So what I did, I put a piece of ground stock in the Jacobs chuck, and I measured the run out with a dial indicator. And I thought, well, I can get a new chuck, or I can try and fix this. And I actually ended up grinding the Jacobs chuck and having basically zero run out. And I did that. Nice. I did that with just a little, made a little jig to hold so that you could clamp the jaws shut and still grind, and a Dremel tool basically with a hand-held unit. I can put some picks up, but I got the chuck running true, so it makes a big difference, of course, when you're drilling holes that get them on size.
Hey, Matt, what have you got going on shed time?
This week, I've gone a little dark with the Facebook marketplace. So I saw somebody was selling wrought iron or some fences that look like wrought iron, and they happen to be also right next to my daughter's school. So I just picked up like a bunch of them, and so it's a gamble. There's a chance that she might not be knowing what she's talking about. I got myself probably 20 kilo of wrought iron for $20. If not, I got myself a ugly piece of shit metal in the shed.
Some mild steel.
Some glorified rusty mild steel. But it's okay. Yeah. I can make it look old, and I can call it antique, and I can sell it for $1,000, just like those antique anvils.
Yeah. Turn it into hooks.
We all know if you want to sell blacksmithing equipment for the right price, you have to sit it out in the yard till it rusts up. But like new tongs are cheaper than old tongs, and that's why I started bringing tongs in. Actually, I wanted tongs. I spent about $180 on 5 pairs of tongs at an auction. And I thought there has to be a better way to buy tongs than this.
I guess what else has been happening in knife making? Have you seen anything online that new things coming through, or some fancy stuff going on that piques your interest?
There's I'll try to find the actual post. There's an engraving page that I've been following, Daniel Engraving Art, I think, on Instagram, and they were doing some crazy gold inlays and engraving. I've never fiddled with engraving, but after seeing those intricate gold engravings, you think like, man, if those are nice, like you look at your own work and you think like, man, my stuff is so simple compared to them. These guys are like engraving, or they're doing some like figures of walls and things, and they're putting gold inlay to make it look like the stars and things. Another one was John Horgan's post. John Horgan, I met him at the Blade Show. He's a mastersmith. He had this dagger. Okay, he reposted the pictures on his Instagram. He's been new on Instagram, I can tell. This dagger had like 75 little full of gold flowers on it.
Yeah.
You see stuff like that, and he posted recently. If you haven't, I will say go check it out. And John Horgan, and I'm getting in the deep. I'm getting in like the scrolling down of a lot of the engraving related posts.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, the engraving stuff that's happening out there now is pretty sensational.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And there's a couple of the Queensland guys over in QMAC guys over in South Africa at the moment. And they've been posting up some stuff they've been doing over there with being on an engraving class. It's pretty cool. I've spent time, as you know, over with Bill Burke and Bruce Barnett, and those two guys are into their engraving pretty full on. The only downside to engraving is it's just another thing to invest so much time and money into. I look at it and I think, well, I'll wait till they're good enough, and then I'll send my stuff to them or use one of the other guys. It's just spreading myself too thin to want to do that.
Yeah.
Did you guys received any questions?
No, I haven't got any. So this is a shout out to everybody out there. If you've got a question about knife making, you want us to answer. I mean, it doesn't have to be about knife making. We can give relationship advice, identify plants, whatever you like, really. We're PC issues, we can help with computer problems, whatever you like. We'll be happy to take your questions. We may not answer them, but we'd be happy for you to ask.
I've gotten a question in my personal knife account in regards to Hamon. I posted some blades with the Hamon on them, and I was getting questions about, hey, how do you do those cool patterns on your blade? So I just want to explain a little bit about Hamon and differential heat treatment. So basically, if you have a steel that is shallow hardening, like W2 or sometimes 1095, by putting clay on near the spine of the blade and quenching in the fast oil, you can leave the top portion of the blade unhardened. In Japanese, it's called as hamon. So it's not done by me drawing designs on it. It is basically the spine being coated with the clay, not hardening the blade completely. So that's where that patterns come up. And I use W2 or 1095 for my hamons, and to be able to get a hamon, you have to have the proper oil, and you have to use, using K-type oil. And Kev, what was that oil you using, Kev?
I did a test on a product for Gamaco, for Corin, and it was the AquaQuench. I think AquaQuench 251.
Yeah, we
another
sell it
Horton's
now.
product.
Yep.
Yeah, and you mix that in a ratio with water, so it's a step up on severity of hardening from K-Quench. But I've actually been doing a mixture of the two. So I'm doing my initial quench straight out of the oven into the AquaQuench for like a 3 to 5 second count, and then out of that and then into the K-Quench following that. And I'm getting some pretty good results with the Hamons. I have to say, like, it's another learning curve because it does produce a lot of a different result to what you're expecting if you've used K-Quench a lot. But it's a pretty cool product. Consistently, like when I was doing the test for Corin for the AquaQuench 251, which is a synthetic product you add to water by volume. My testing, I had enough to play around a few different grades, but there was a chart included where, it was like 10% or something. I think I had it out at, and just produced really consistent results in hardness. Popped them all onto the hardness tester, and they were coming out from quench at, I think it was like 64, 60, somewhere between 64 and 65 Rockwell, from memory. I've got it written down somewhere. But that's just another product that you can use again for 1095 or W2.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically what it is a polymer material that can be blended with water to slow water down. It won't make it as slow as oil, but the more you add, the slower it'll go. And it gives you a bit more flexibility to get your faster quenches, to get Hamons, which is basically the theory behind it.
The other nice thing, which I should actually add to it, is it's very clean. So where you quench your blades into your K-Quench and they come out and they've got that black oil residue on them, out of the AquaQuench, you pop it in there, it cools down really fast, obviously. You pull them out and your blade it's clean, it's lovely. You don't have to do too much sort of cleanup before you chuck them into temper.
No, that's good. It's actually on our website. I just had a quick look. Yeah, we've got a drum of it out the back that we haven't been heavily promoting it. It's just the guys that are really keen on Hamons might be interested in it. It's $15 for a litre, and basically you mix it at, as you said, 10%, so that'll make about 10 litres. You can mix it at 15%, which will give a different result again. So make about 8.5 litres. So yeah, anyway, you'll have a play with it. It's for those that are interested in it. Yeah, for sure.
If anyone does get it and use it, make sure you've got a pretty good lid on your quench tank because being water, it'll evaporate. Yeah,
I'm not sure that the polymer will. You should be able to top it back up like soluble oil.
Yeah, that's it. The polymer doesn't, but from what I've seen on mine when I've let it settle for a while, it doesn't settle as a layer that you can actually gauge and go, oh yeah, I've lost, unless you mark it out in a bucket, of course. Yeah, you might end up putting the wrong mixture or volume of water back in.
Yeah, which will give you inconsistency. So, look, it's a new product. There's some playing with to be done. We brought it in as a special request to try and find a way to quench blades faster without cracks, and there is a limit to how fast you can quench. But yeah, this is a pretty good solution from what we've heard. If you go too hard with it, you will crack blades. But that's what you need to do to get a hum on. You need to have that differential hardness where you've got the super hard edge and the soft spine, and that's going to lead to stresses. So to get the most beautiful hum on, you've got the most stress.
Absolutely. Unky Keefe tried it too, didn't he?
Yeah, Unky Keefe's been playing with it. Hashtag Unky Keefe on Instagram. Flutter Knives. K Flutter Knives. I don't know. Keith Flutter Knives. Keith F Knives. Whatever he is on Instagram. Great guy.
Unky Keefe.
Unky Keefe, yeah. That for sure is the best hashtag to find him on.
Yeah, he'd be loving it.
So
anyone got any shout outs they want to send out?
I have one it's going for Tristan Bladesmithing, Chad Smith. A friend of mine that we got in the knife making scene at the same time almost. We helped each other a lot, and last year or so he kind of took a break from knife making and he's going to get back into it pretty strong.
Good fella.
Yep. Yeah, great guy. If my one would be for Matthew McVicker, Vicar Forge. Why not? Co-owner of another owner of a die filer. Really great guy. Known him since very early on in my internet forum forays into knife making. Used to come up to my house, made his first forges at my place, and just an all-round great guy whose work has been steadily improving ever since his department from our services. So departure from his service for the Australian government. But yeah, there we go.
Very good. I want to give a shout out to one of our guys overseas, actually. Tanner. I want to give a shout out to Tanner Couch. Tanner was one of the guys that we met at Blade Show, and makes slip joint knives under the tutelage of Bill Rupel, who's like the god of slippies. But Tanner's posted up a few times on our Facebook page about how he's enjoying the content, especially when he's on night shift. I think we keep him awake. We keep him awake at the wheel when he's working out on the ranch. So big shout out to Tanner. Looking forward to seeing you again, my friend, sometime down the trail.
Yeah, Tanner's a great guy. Not much of him, but he's a top bloke.
Yeah, that's it. And he's not Bubba Crouch's son.
Oh, yeah.
Tanner Couch, not Tanner Crouch. So people.
Yeah, that's it.
Here's one for Bubba Crouch too. He's another great guy. A great guy. Anyway,
so
look him up.
General shout out to all the people that listen over in the US and trying to work out what we're talking about with our Australian accents. But good on you. Thanks very much.
She'll be right, mate.
She'll be
right, mate.
She'll be apples.
Yep.
Closing notes. What are you guys going to work on this week? What do you have going on?
Kev?
Well, I'm making a slow return to the workshop. My thumb is healing really well. I was in there marking around with some stuff yesterday, and I'm going to try and get that handle done so I can get a knife up to a fella up in Queensland. Then that'll be for me a bit of a win because, as you know, I haven't done a lot in the workshop, and I'm going a bit crazy at home with domestic duties and domestic, that stuff. What about you guys?
Matt?
Look, I have to clean my shop up. I was saying I'll do it after the Sydney show. I will say next week I'll do it. I have to clean my shop up, and also I have a backlog of custom orders I need to finish up. So this week I'll be in the shed cleaning and again making it dirty and hopefully cleaning again.
So
yes,
believe it or not, my shop is also in a bad state. After I've done quite a number of projects on the metal lathe, and turning steel, throwing chip all over the place. I've got, I can't walk around bare feet at the moment. Let's just put it that way. So that's one of the things I'm going to do. The other thing is I'm going to look at the dust system in my workshop with a serious eye to getting that fixed up, which maybe we can talk about in a future episode. But one of the things I've done is somebody, and I thought it was Kev, but apparently it wasn't Kev. Somebody put me on to a guy clearing a bunch of 100 mil wide strip vinyl. And I bought a roll of 50 metres for $25. It's top quality stuff. It's a little bit sun discoloured. And so I've made a strip vinyl door, which is a heavy strip vinyl door to my dust room. And I've got to put in an extraction system and work out how I'm going to manage dust because, well, dust is the silent killer of knife makers. So that's something we all have to be aware of. Yeah.
Yeah, dust, death, and taxes are the only three things a knife maker has to really sort of bank on.
Oh, some people don't worry about the taxes, but yes, the dust is definitely an issue. The dust is definitely an issue. So
yeah, I think we'll have to have a look at that because I'm in the same boat. My workshop's just one room. I don't have a separate dust room, and I've been looking at these things people have been doing with dust extraction systems, and it's almost overwhelming the number of things you can do. But I've got an idea of where the route that I want to go, and I think we'll need that for another episode, I reckon.
Yeah, because it's not. I mean, there's all sorts of issues here. It's not just airborne particulate, but also when you have an extraction system, knife makers do what most people who produce dust don't, and that is we put flammable products into our dust collection system, and then we put sparks. And
yes,
and that combination, whilst it may seem innocuous to the stupid, is actually quite lethal and has burnt down many a shed. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. All right, gentlemen. Well, need to go out and get some work done in the shop. And
Kev, how can people reach you? What's your social media accounts? How people can reach you?
They can reach me through both my website, which is kevsforge.com. There's a contact me page on there. They can catch me through Instagram, which is @kevsforge, and my Facebook pages are Kevsforge and Kevin Slattery Custom Cutlery.
What about you, Corin?
Yeah, no worries.
Don't contact him.
No, I'm basically Nirok at Gamaco on Instagram. Of course, Corin Urquhart on Facebook, which I'm the only Corin Urquhart on Facebook, or at least I used to be. So maybe I still am. And you can also contact me through, all the other pages and groups of which I'm a member. So, yeah.
All right. I'm under Tensu Knives, and you can also contact me at Hunter Valley Blades. And if you want to contact this podcast, you can reach us through Instagram, Knifemaking Downunder Podcast, and we also have our Facebook page, Knifemaking Downunder Podcast. Now we're finally on iTunes and on Spotify and Podbean and also YouTube. And thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and like and give us a review. We need your reviews.
We're on a bunch of other ones now. Since we've been on iTunes, a bunch of other podcast hosters have listed us as well. So we've finally gone, if you like, it's for real. So yeah, it's taken a while, but thanks for everyone who's stuck with us. We got 500 of you on Facebook and a bunch of people who have listened to us on YouTube and so forth. Again, guys, this is your Knife Making Down Under podcast. If there's anything you'd like to know about, if there's something you'd like to ask, if you'd just like to tell us we're a bunch of wankers, whatever, get on there and tell us. We're quite happy with that. We'd be happy to answer your questions and give you some feedback on what we think of you as well.
Yeah, get involved. It's a good plan.
Yeah. All good.
Until next time.
Good on you, boys.
Till next time.
Take care, everybody out there. Have a good one. Be safe. Bye.